From atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where it's just about the start of war season, so finish getting those fields planted, get those pikes and halberds sharpened up, because we're going on campaign in 2 weeks. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the Blast Radius. So good of you to join us this evening. Here is your golden age of Western civilization news roundup for the week ending 25 April 2025. Dayline, Washington, Monday, 21 April. The White House Easter egg roll had a decidedly different vibe and character this year, which probably came as a bitter disappointment if you're the sort of person who enjoys watching the cadaver of Joe Biden cavort with naked transvestites as giant gay pride flags billow from the edge of the Truman balcony. No, this year, the Trump administration took the wildly subversive step of using the same occasion to have little kids hunt for eggs while the president talked about Jesus Christ on the most important day of the Christian liturgical calendar. Imagine that. Oh wait, that wasn't wildly subversive, was it? That was actually what every White House Easter egg roll used to look like up until militant sex perverts captured the central government back in 2021 and set about the very important work of eradicating religion from the public square and, of course, making everything gay. Remember that video I did last year where I held a little contest to see which federal cabinet department had the ugliest Pride Month logo? Because of course they each had one. And that last Easter egg roll, you know, the one with the naked transvestites, if you look at the wide panoramic shots of that event, one doesn't get the impression that one is looking at a commemoration of Easter Sunday. One gets the impression of a gay pride festival that has a man in a bunny suit stood incongruously in the middle of the scene. But he couldn't stand for long because, you remember, he was busy holding Joe's hand and gently but firmly diverting him away from any inconvenient press inquiries that might happen to arise. And damn it, I still want to know who the hell was in that bunny suit, because it wasn't some random bunny impersonator, I will tell you that. That guy was a minder. He was very much babysitting and chaperoning the president. If that guy decides to write a tell-all memoir, I volunteer to be the ghostwriter. We will call it Beneath the Ears, Biden's Bunny Spills the Jelly Beans. Now here's a brief excerpt from President Trump's Easter proclamation, and you can imagine how much this upset all the right people. Quote, "We're honoring Jesus Christ, and we're going to honor Jesus Christ very powerfully throughout our lives. All throughout our lives, not just now, all throughout our lives. We're bringing religion back in America. We're bringing a lot of things back, but religion is coming back to America. That's why you see the kind of numbers that you see, the spirit and the kind of numbers that you see. So we're going to come down and join you right now, but I just want to wish everybody once again, Happy Easter and enjoy your lives," end quote. Upon being informed of these remarks, crying Chuck Schumer immediately declared a constitutional crisis, and Whoopi Goldberg exclaimed, "He sounds just like Hitler," end quote. Dateline, Vatican City, Tuesday, 22 April. Pope Francis, supreme leader of the Holy and Apostolic Catholic Church and its over 1 billion adherents worldwide, passed away earlier this week at the age of 88, and then, per papal tradition, his unembalmed, moldering corpse was put on public display for the remainder of the week, during which it was viewed by millions of the faithful, some of whom could be heard to remark, "I don't know, I still think he looks better than Biden." Here in America, the usual idiots who somehow still have jobs on television, including the aforementioned Whoopi Goldberg, immediately went into hysterics, as they often do, worrying that the new pope would be less woke than good woke Frank. And while yes, it is true that the late pontiff said some things and harbored some views that were pretty wildly heterodox in terms of things popes have ever said before, I mean, after all, there is a reason I started calling him good woke Frank, but some of our friends on the left seem to be rather highly selective in which of this man's views they choose to listen to and acknowledge and celebrate. And so, as a public service for these folks, here's a couple of Pope Francis quotes on the topics that are nearest and dearest to the hearts of the wokesters. Here's Pope Francis on gay marriage. Quote, "God cannot bless sin." Pope Francis on transgenderism. Quote, "It is the ugliest ideology of our time. Canceling out the differences between men and women means canceling out humanity." End quote. And it goes without saying, obviously, that the man was not a very big fan of abortion or birth control. Really, the only area where the Pope's views were aligned with the views of the globalist left was in the area of migration. The former Jorge Maria Bergoglio was very much a liberation theologist. His views absolutely were influenced by the secular socialist left in 1950s and 60s Argentina. And the most obvious vestige of that was his belief that we shouldn't have any borders, man. They're just lines on maps, man. People should be able to go and live wherever they want, man. Wouldn't that be groovy? And yet, strangely, perhaps incongruously, he reigned as Europe's last absolute monarch over a nation-state with the most walled-off, most heavily policed frontiers in the entire world, so I guess take that wild juxtaposition for what you will. And now we move on to the papal conclave, which is always a fascinating exercise with its peculiar mix of medieval tradition and modern high technology, but it seems like each one goes quicker than the last one did. Because even when you're an 80-year-old Catholic cardinal, not having your smartphone for a few days is pretty much a fate worse than death. So it seems to move things right along, which is probably sort of a good thing. In other words, if you're a betting man, I don't know what the over-under is on the number of days that the conclave is going to take, but I'm saying take the under, and please gamble responsibly. However, if you're betting on shit like that, you probably already have a problem. I'm just saying. Dateline Davos, Wednesday, 23 April. In the most shockingly unexpected story of the week, the founder of an organization designed to enable and facilitate corruption now stands accused of corruption himself. Klaus Schwab, the guy who's been telling you to eat bugs and own no property because you'll be happier for the last 40 years. You'll be eating bugs! Founder and outgoing CEO of the World Economic Forum is reportedly being investigated by the same organization he founded, insert Vince McMahon joke here, after a whistleblower made a series of very lurid allegations against Herr Schwab and various members of his family and inner circle. And I guess insert another Vince McMahon joke here. The 87-year-old Schwab resigned as chairman of the WEF's board of trustees last Sunday, which leads one to believe that he takes these whistleblower allegations fairly seriously. And I guess insert a third Vince McMahon joke here. The Financial Times reported, quote, "The new claims come on top of others made last year, alleging Schwab presided over a toxic workplace culture where sexual harassment was not properly investigated and black and female employees were discriminated against. In March, WEF reported to sponsors that the earlier investigation did not find that the forum had committed any legal violations and did not substantiate allegations of misconduct against him. The whistleblower additionally alleges that Schwab presided over a workplace culture where older male executives behaved in a sexually boorish manner toward younger female underlings, and that reports of harassment, misconduct, and worse were routinely hushed up or went uninvestigated altogether." And what a delicious irony this is, don't you think? That a man and an organization that have been seen as the shining lights of modern progressive liberal sensitivity, this whole time they've been running an office that wouldn't be out of place on an episode of Mad Men. I mean, at least with Vince McMahon, when he gets accused of doing that sort of shit, it's not that far off from the character he portrays on TV. I don't think anybody read the Vince McMahon allegations and thought, nah, Vince McMahon would never do that. But at least that dude, he never hid his alleged taste for depravity behind a veneer of progressive feminist do-goodery. And I don't know how this is going to shake out for our man Klaus. I mean, nobody can afford better lawyers than that dude can, but I'm guessing you're going to see a lot fewer political and entertainment superstars turning out in Davos for the next edition of that WEF Shangri-La party, whatever the hell they call it. It's just I expect George Clooney is frantically trying to come up with a scheduling conflict as we speak. Sorry, Klaus, I can't make it this year. I just found out I'm shooting a Slim Jim commercial that day. Can you believe it? And you guys see what I just did? I brought you on a journey all the way from Yuva Easybugs to snap into a Slim Jim, and you're welcome. Dateline London, Thursday, 24 April. In a story that caused deep disappointment to probably no one, the plant-based vegan burger chain started 6 years ago by actor Leo DiCaprio and Formula One driver Sir Lewis Hamilton has sadly been forced to shut down. Probably, and this is just my wild theory, because nobody wants to eat food that tastes like shit and has the consistency of a melted roof shingle. Neat Burger was the name of the chain, which launched to much contrived fanfare in the UK back in 2019, and I say contrived because let's face it, the next time someone gets genuinely excited about eating a plant burger will be the first time. And what was the point of the whole exercise? Well, that's hard to say, really. If it was an attempt to convince connoisseurs of real hamburgers that burgers made out of fucking algae and soybeans and unicorn farts are just as tasty, well, that didn't quite work out. But damn it, it's also about sustainability, said Leo and Sir Lewis back on launch day half a dozen years ago. Because damn it, real hamburgers require slaughtering cattle, and that's just just mean. And besides, cow farts one day could render the planet potentially uninhabitable if we don't stop being such a bunch of unreconstructed, bloodthirsty, carnivorous bastards. So we all need to get the hell over it and start enjoying delicious seaweed burgers instead. But the question remains, if you're vegan and vegetarian types, and don't explain the difference to me because I don't care, if they were actually as secure in their dietary choices as they claim to be, why would they have any desire to eat something that resembles a hamburger? And it's only a superficial resemblance, obviously, because you're taking a slab of something that tastes like the sole of a homeless man's shoe and then slathering it with a bunch of hamburger condiments, slapping it between a bun, and hoping against hope you can convince yourself it really tastes like a delicious ground beef patty. In fact, if I didn't know better, I might view the whole vegan burger thing as a tacit admission from our herbivorous friends that they really do have an insatiable desire to consume the delicious flesh of various bovine creatures. Because seriously, if you are a fully committed vegan vegetarian type and you're totally secure with the dietary choices you've made for yourself, shouldn't you be just as happy as a pig in shit about eating nothing but dirt and roots and berries and salads? If Leo and Sir Lewis wanted to cater to the tastes of that crowd, wouldn't it make more sense to open a salad shack instead of a burger shack? But I guess our self-appointed celebrity overlords are mistaken in their biggest presumption, that through spending enough money and exerting enough political pressure and brute force industrialized shame, they can socially engineer everybody else in the world toward living and thinking and eating the way they think they ought to. Some might call it a disgusting display of class-based paternalism, just like when Klaus Schwab tells you to eat the bugs. Or we could call it a well-intentioned but ultimately doomed effort to save the planet and the human race from the insidious scourge of bovine flatulence. We report, you decide. Dateline Washington, Friday, 25 April. 2 Democrat activist judges were arrested by the FBI this week because they decided they sparkly heart illegal aliens more than they care about being judges. Wisconsin County Judge Hannah Dugan, and when you look at this woman's picture, you can practically smell the crazy dripping off of her, and it also leaves no doubt about what Tim Walz would look like as a drag queen. But she was taken into custody and faces 6 years in prison for actively helping a criminal illegal alien escape the courthouse and evade capture by immigration and customs enforcement. Personally, I never knew it was part of a judge's job to help a dude climb out the back window so he can get away from the federales, but I ain't no fancy lawyer, so maybe this stuff is just all beyond my level. But Judge Hannah, and we probably won't have to call her judge much longer, she does not win the prize for biggest scumbag judge of the week. That honor goes to a former Doña Ana County, New Mexico magistrate by the name of Jose Luis Cano, who sparkly hearts illegal aliens so much he had a couple of wanted Tren de Aragua gang members living in his spare bedroom. And apparently, Judge Cano and his lovely wife Nancy, they've been riding the hobby horse with TDA for quite some time now. Apparently, at least that's the impression one gets from the fact that numerous anonymous tips have come in over the course of many months indicating that Judge and Mrs. Cano's residence has effectively been a Tren de Aragua stash house for some time now, with shady-looking characters coming and going at all hours of the night, weapons and drugs apparently being transported into and out of the house. And are we going to pretend, at a time when we are beset with activist judges attempting to assume the powers of the presidency unto themselves, that these 2 judges are the only crooked ones out there? Well, no, I'm not going to pretend that. I don't know about you. And now, what do Judge Hannah and Judge Jose have in common? Well, they were both woke, left-wing activists before they pursued a career on the judicial bench. Judge Hannah, in fact, was the executive director of Catholic Charity, an organization that has now halted its operations while under criminal investigation for enabling and facilitating the foreign invasion that has claimed the lives of more than 500,000 Americans just during Joe Biden's presidency. The point is, when we allege that the Democrats no longer have any compunction about installing corrupt party apparatchiks on the judicial bench, we are not just pissing up a rope, and we ain't just whistling Dixie. It's a real thing. It's been a real problem for quite a while now, and I guarantee you, these 2 cases will not wind up being the worst of it. So does the story have a moral? Well, yes it does. Making an activist into a judge is just as impossible as making a man into a woman. And since I have run out of days in the week, that is the end of the roundup, and with that I pass the controls over to my distinguished colleague, your illustrious co-host, the man-beast from the southeast, the one and only, your friend and mine, Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch.